Hello, my name is Roan, and welcome to Roan Code. This is going to be a series about me learning about LeetCode, and I hope that you guys can learn a little bit with me. I'm a junior computer science student at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I haven't done a lot of LeetCode. If you don't know what LeetCode is, it's a series of coding challenges that you might get asked for before you get a corporate tech job, usually during the interview portion after you might have gone through a couple of other screenings. Now, TwoSum is LeetCode number 1 of the LeetCode suite of problems that your recruiter might pick from. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the general strategy. Generally, you should begin by reading the question. I usually jump the gun and decide, you know what, I've read half of it. Let's give it a shot. Usually not the best move. Number 2, mentally run through the test case. So just think of a test case. Say it's giving you it's asking you to sort a list of numbers. Take your list of numbers that you've made in your head, try and sort them, see what the best way is for that. 3, draw out your solution. Literally draw it, pen and paper if you have to. You just want to get a good mental picture of what you're going to be coding. And then number 4 is code without a text editor. I know a lot of people decide to use text editors as a crutch, and in reality, when you're in an interview, you should be more or less confident with your syntax and that you're going to not make any mistakes. Okay, let's move on to the actual problem. This is number 1, TwoSum, as I said earlier. It explains, given an array of 2 integer nums and an integer target, return the indices of the 2 numbers such that they add up to target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. Okay? It's given some examples, which are good for your test cases, by the way, as I mentioned earlier. You have your input, nums, 2, 7, 11, 15, and your target is 9. So one thing that we look for, so the code would output 0, 1 because 2 and 7 add up to 9. And it gives you a little explanation here. So I have my array nums and my target of 9. So I'm going to try and figure out exactly how we can get the target 9. What initially comes to mind is we're going to have 2 variables. Let's call it A and B and target. And we know we're going to know A and B. So we're going to have A plus B equals T. This is just an algebraic expression. What we can do here, we can move B to the other side, and now we have this expression. Since we know T up here, we can plug it in. And now, if we know B, we can get what A has to equal. So let's go through and say initially A is 2 and B is 7. Which we know from the earlier test case that is going to be our answer, but we don't know that quite yet. So if we plug it in, we have 2 equals 2, which is true. So that means that works. But how are we going to make this extensible? What first comes to mind is we need to do that computation and find every acceptable version of A from our algebraic expression we had earlier, A equals T minus B, and put it into a map. Given our first value of our in our array, we're going to call that B. And so now we're going to have A equals 10 minus 1, which equals 9. So we have that this first index, if you would remember, it starts at 0. It depends on what language you're in, but in Python it starts at 0, so we're keeping it at 0. And we're going to say, okay, index 0 is looking for a 9. That's what we need. So in our map, we're going to have this structure 0, index 0 needs a 9. And now we can move on. So now 5 is our number at index 1. And now we could say A equals our target, 10, minus 5. So now we have that index 1 needs a 5. Moving on now. At index 2, our b is now 9. So actually, before we map that, we should probably make a comparison to every other part of our map. Oh, actually, what might be better is to switch the orientation of our map. So we have 9 maps to 0. Yeah, this will work better. 9 maps to 0, 1 maps to 5, 5 maps to 1. 9 maps to 0, 5 maps to 1. So now we check and see the keys in our map before we do this computation right here and see if 9 is present, which we should have done for the other ones too. But since we know that 9 is present at index 2, and we know that 9 is the number we're looking for at index 0, and you can see that works out because we have 9, and then at index 0 we have 1, so 9 plus 1 is 10, which is our target. So that's what we wanted. So we can say we're done. And if you remember from earlier, the rules indicate that there's exactly one solution in the array. So we don't have to worry about any others, and we can stop our program right there. All right, so here we have our function definition, and we're given self, nums, and target. I'm doing this in the command line, and we're doing this in Python. You could realistically do this in any language you wanted to, even depending on which job you're trying to get or what you think your interview might ask you to code in. But usually I think it's Python. So we are given a array nums, which is a list of integers, a target, that's an integer, and we're returning a list of integers. So let's go ahead and initialize our variables. So we're going to begin with, got to remember this isn't C. I've been coding a lot in C. We're going to have our, we're going to do a for loop. So for I in range len of the numbers array. So basically that means we're going to loop through the entire nums array. And we are going to save our cur variable, which is nums I, our current variable that we are going to be working with. And actually before this, we're going to begin by making a dictionary. So we're just going to call this num dictionary. This isn't customary Python variable naming, but we'll work with it for now. And we're going to have that equal to a dictionary. Now we're going to go through and we're going to do our algebraic expression from earlier. So if you remember, we simplified our equation down to an int x, or a in our case, we'll keep it consistent. And then we have our target, which is defined in our function, minus cur, which was b in our example, and now we're going to say if cur in num dictionary dot keys return, and we're going to return an array, I believe it is. Let me look back. An array. Yeah, a list of ints that we had here. We're going to have the value of num dictionary at cur. And we're also going to have I, our current index that we are at in the nums array. Else, we're going to add a and our I into the dictionary. Just like that. And then we'll continue through the loop. And I believe that should work. And we'll run it in the LeetCode right now. All right. It seems I've made a Python mistake. Bear with me. I just got out of a class that did C the whole time. Forget you don't need to say that, even though Python is based on C. Let's run it. And look at that. I don't know if you guys see that. It's kind of small, but accepted. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. This video was the first video in hopefully a series of videos on a bunch of different LeetCode problems. So this has been Roan Code. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, share it with your friends, and we'll be back for another video soon.